Hi, this is Subramaniam Shankaran from IEEE. Whenever it comes to information security, there are six parameters that we actually need to give consideration. Number one, it's actually called as an attack surface. Now, what is an attack surface? If you consider a building, whatever is exposed outside and inside, okay, becomes an attack surface. Why inside? There are insider threats. Okay, why outside? Because an outside is going to be the untrusted parties who are actually going to look into it. We might have a trusted or untrusted party looking at the attack surface. See, when it comes to an internal surface, internal attack surface, so there are people who are authorized to enter inside. There could be a visitor, contractor, vendors, employees, blah, blah, blah. But still, we know who the actors are. Okay, but when it comes to an external surface, we don't know who the actors are. For example, the building is actually visible outside. Okay, let's assume the Burj Khalifa. Okay, the Burj Khalifa. Okay, I can go to Dubai Mall and have a look at the Burj Khalifa. So we actually don't know who all looking at the Burj Khalifa from outside. But when it comes to getting inside the Burj Khalifa and having a look into it, there are authorized for people who are actually entering inside. Obviously, there are CCTV cameras outside, inside, blah blah blah. Okay, but once I know an authorized person is actually entering the building, okay, then I know it's easy to catch a particular person. Okay, so attack surface is what is actually exposed outside. Now, what is an attack vector? Attack vector, okay, are the key areas which can undergo an attack. For example, doors, windows, the chimneys, service delivery access points. All these things becomes an attack vector. So attack vector is a part of the attack surface. Lesser the attack surface, lesser the attack vector, lesser the number of attacks you can actually have. But it all depends upon what your situation is. If it's a publicly facing website or an e-commerce company, you cannot say that I will not expose my web server to the public. No. So that's what your nature of business is. Now, when it comes to the threats, okay, there are four things that we need to consider. Number one is threat landscape. Now, what is the threat landscape? Before that, let's consider what is called the threat catalog. Threat catalog are the list of threats that are actually available. It might be applicable for you, might not be applicable for you. So when it comes to web application, we can go for OWASP top 10 vulnerability, SANS top 25, web application security consortium, and something more than that also. Because these organizations are doing their level best to give us the list of attacks that are actually possible. But we are finding things very often. Okay, in sense like the OWASP top 10 vulnerability 10 years back was not what we had 5 years back, was not what we had 2 years back, is not what we are actually having it now. Okay, this undergoes a change depending upon the threats, depending upon the vulnerability, depending upon the attacks. Okay, it's good that it's always evolving. So the threat catalog is the number of threats, okay, list of threats that are available, and threat landscape is what is applicable for us. Okay, for an organization. Okay, for example, if the organization does not have an web service at all, then the OWASP top 10 vulnerability is not even applicable for them. The threat catalog might have those as a list. When it comes to a threat landscape, it might not be applicable. Okay. Now, there are two more things that we need to terms that we need to understand. Okay, threat actor and threat event. Threat actor could be an external person, internal person, hacker, programmer, tester, blah blah blah. Okay, usually the programmers, testers, they all become a threat only when they are disgruntled. Okay, otherwise they are quite safe. Now, threat actor could also be natural calamity. And what is a threat event? It could be a flood, it could be a storm. Okay, it could be a fire. Okay, now threat actors will initiate a threat event to cause an attack. Now, this threat event is from the threat landscape, which is from the threat catalog. So, catalog is like a universal set. Okay, subset is what your threat landscape is, and from where the threat actors will do something, will initiate an event which falls under the threat catalog. Okay, sorry, it falls under the threat landscape. Now, for an organization, the security person, he need to understand the threat catalog and the threat landscape. Okay. In fact, people who join us for certified information security risk officer training, so we have a list of threat catalog and how do we pick up the threat landscape and how do you identify the threat actor, what is the threat event, all those things we actually do. So finally, you have to minimize the attack surface. Okay, so the attacks vectors are also minimized. Identify the threat. There are a lot of ways by which you can identify the threats. Okay, there are 16 different types of threat modeling technique, and people know Pasta, people know Stride. Okay, the popular Microsoft way of actually doing it. But there are 16 different ways of threat modeling techniques. Okay, so identify the threats. Okay, so from the threat catalog, pick up your threat landscape and see what all the threads, what all the events from the threat landscape can be initiated with threat actor. Okay, now this will actually form the basis for your information security risk management program. Cheers, stay connected to the channel for regular news and some tidbits like this for the information security. Cheers, then, bye bye. Have a good day.